In a quiet chapel filled with flickering candlelight and the gentle hum of gospel harmonies, the world bid farewell to Malcolm-Jamal Warner, a man who was so much more than an actor. He was a cultural icon, a poet, a musician, and a soul who gave everything to his craft and community. On this somber day, July 21st, 2025, loved ones gathered to remember not just the star who lit up our screens, but the man who left an indelible mark on hearts around the world. Malcolm-Jamal Warner's funeral was held in Los Angeles, attended by a deeply emotional congregation of family, close friends, and industry colleagues. The ceremony was simple, but profound and intimate reflection of the man himself. The sanctuary was adorned with white roses, his favorite flower, and photographs from every chapter of his life, childhood snapshots. Behind the scenes, moments from The Cosby Show, poetry readings, jazz gigs, and treasured times with his daughter and wife. The air was heavy with emotion. Many sat silently, dabbing tears, while others held hands, silently remembering the man who had once been America's favorite, TV Sun and so much more. Among the mourners were longtime co-stars, fellow artists and friends who had walked with Malcolm through the highs and lows of his extraordinary life. Felicia Rashad, who played his television mother, delivered a eulogy that left not a single dry eye in the room. "He was my son in fiction," she said, her voice trembling, but in spirit, he was my son in truth. Malcolm had a rare wisdom, even as a child. He saw the world through a lens most adults never develop. He made us laugh, think, and most of all feel. Other speakers included Regina King, his former partner and dear friend, who offered a deeply personal and moving reflection on the man behind the fame. "He didn't chase the spotlight. He carried the light within him," she said. "He loved with gentleness, spoke with intention, and created art that healed people. That was Malcolm." Music played a central role in the service, a nod to Malcolm's deep love for jazz and spoken word. A haunting saxophone solo echoed through the church, performed by one of his former bandmates, followed by a stirring performance of Donny Hathaway's "Someday We'll All Be Free." Malcolm's own poetry was also read aloud by close friends, each word carrying weight and reverence, as if he were speaking one last time to those he loved. One poem in particular struck the soul of every person in the room. "I don't fear the night. I was made of stars. And when I leave, no, I haven't gone far." Though he lived much of his life in the public eye, Malcolm-Jamal Warner was known for guarding his private world. But those close to him described a man of profound empathy, integrity, and quiet generosity. He mentored young artists often off camera, encouraging them to honor their voices and stay grounded. He was a devoted father, a loving husband, and a loyal friend, roles that mattered to him far more than any Emmy nomination or red carpet. His wife, who chose to speak only briefly, said through tears, "I didn't lose a husband. I lost my best friend, my rhythm, my breath. But I know he's still with us. In every song, every poem, every act of kindness he inspired." As the service concluded, Malcolm-Jamal Warner's casket, simple and elegant, draped in a velvet covering the color of midnight, was carried gently outside under the soft, golden California sun. A hush fell over the crowd. The warm light cast a gentle glow on the mourners, as if nature itself had paused to acknowledge the loss of a soul whose presence had once lit up television screens and touched countless hearts. Friends, family, and former co-stars stood in solemn unity. Some bowed their heads, others looked upward, their eyes heavy with tears, but also filled with gratitude. The path leading to the burial site was lined with white lily, Malcolm's favorite flower. According to a close friend, they swayed lightly in the breeze, their fragrance mingling with the scent of incense drifting softly from the nearby altar. Every detail of the ceremony had been carefully chosen to reflect the man being laid to rest. Grounded, yet soulful, understated, yet profound, as the pallbearers among them, actors he once called brothers, approached the gravesite, the air grew still. The quiet was not oppressive. It was sacred. It was a silence heavy with reverence, thick with the memories of a man who had given everything to his craft and his community. Before the casket was lowered, A final prayer was offered by a longtime family friend and pastor. It was not filled with lofty words or dramatic flourishes, but rather a soft-spoken invocation for peace, healing, and remembrance. Then came the doves, released into the sky as the casket began its slow descent into the earth. The birds rose in a graceful arc, circling overhead before disappearing into the sunlit horizon. Each wing beat seemed to echo a piece of Malcolm's spirit, free, soaring, and eternal. There was not a dry eye in the crowd. Some wept openly, clutching tissues. Others stood frozen, as if hoping that if they stood still long enough they might not have to say goodbye just yet. And then, the silence again. But this time, it wasn't hollow. It was a silence filled with memory of laughter on set, of deep conversations held in dressing rooms and jazz clubs, of quiet wisdom shared behind the scenes. It was a silence that carried the weight of thank yous, never said, hugs, never given, and the comforting knowledge that even in death, Malcolm was not gone. His essence lingered in the rustle of the trees, in the warmth of the sun, in the rhythm of the wind. As the crowd slowly began to disperse, many chose to linger. Some wandered over to the large photo collage placed near the burial site, pausing at images of Malcolm as Theo Huxtable, as a poet on stage, as a father cradling his young daughter. Others stood in small groups, recounting their favorite memories. One woman shared how watching Malcolm's performances helped her son feel seen for the first time. Another remembered the way he once stayed after an event to talk with young aspiring actors. Never rushing, never posturing, just listening, just being co-star and friend Tempest Bledsoe, was played his sister Vanessa on The Cosby Show. Was seen wiping away tears as she embraced Malcolm's daughter. "He wasn't just my TV brother," she whispered. "He was family, always will be." Angela Bassett, standing with her husband Courtney B. Vance, laid a single red rose on the casket before leaving. "His light will not go out," she said. "It simply shines somewhere else now." Regina King, deeply shaken, offered no prepared statement. Instead, she placed a small notebook beside the grave, filled with poems they had once written to each other. "This is for him," she said quietly. "He'll know what it means." Nearby, a small group of jazz musicians began to play. Soft saxophone notes floated in the air, blending sorrow with serenity. It was a subtle tribute to Malcolm's deep love for music, particularly the kind that came from the soul and spoke directly to the heart. The song choice? John Coltrane's Naima, a piece about love, longing, and transcendence. Children, played gently nearby, unaware of the gravity of the moment, but their presence felt right. Malcolm had always loved children, always believed in their potential to change the world. Watching them run and laugh, some attendees smiled through their tears. Life, after all, was still moving, just as he would have wanted. In the end, it wasn't just a burial. It was a celebration. It's a sacred honoring of a life well lived, a legacy well earned, and a man who, despite fame, despite pressure, despite public scrutiny, remained authentic, present, and deeply human. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the cemetery, guests began to say their goodbyes, some whispering final messages into the wind, others leaving behind flowers, candles, or notes. No one was in a hurry to leave. They were saying farewell, not just to an actor, but to a brother, a son, a father, a friend, a poet, and a pioneer. Malcolm-Jamal Warner now rests beneath the earth, but his presence remains ever alive in thee. Reruns of sitcoms that made us laugh, in the spoken word verses that made us feel, and in the quiet spaces of our collective memory, where greatness never truly dies. Gone, yes, but never, ever forgotten. Malcolm-Jamal Warner's impact will not be measured solely in awards or television credits. It will live on in the way young black boys saw themselves through Theo Huxtable's eyes, in the way he challenged typecasting and broke ground for emotionally rich roles for black men, in the poetry that touched wounds we rarely speak of, and in the music that carried his soul. His legacy is one of depth and dignity, of representation and revolution. It is one of quiet courage, choosing the harder, more meaningful path instead of the easy applause. It is a legacy that will live on for generations. As the sun set over Los Angeles, one could almost hear his voice low, calm, reflective, offering one last piece of wisdom. We're all just borrowing time. What matters is what we do with it. Malcolm-Jamal Warner used his time to uplift, to create, to heal, and to love. Rest in power, Malcolm. You were more than we ever deserved.